G'day, Ballers, and welcome to the Sunday Snap, coming to you through the Ballr podcast feed. This is the podcast where we give our snap reactions to the NRL SuperCoach round that was. My name's Jono, coach of Hungry for More, and with me to talk about all the big news out of round 3 is the coach of Tubes Pods. He's the sultan of spicy takes. He's the prince of pods. It's Tubes! How you going, Tubes?
I'm all right, Jono.
Are you?
I feel like we say every week, and it's getting a bit depressing. It's a tough carry this week. I've had a bit of a disaster round for SuperCoach. Didn't know notable point scorers: Tom Jenkins, Jordan Ricky, Tanner Boyd. Who else we got?
Joe Chan, the fix-it man.
Joe Chan, Jai Gray. Seemed to miss all of them. Jake Averillo didn't bring any of them in. And yeah, I was having not a great round, and then copped the Hopgood 13 today as well. So yeah, I've scraped in for just under 1,100, which doesn't feel as bad as it probably could have been, because it felt like a lot of people could have gone a lot bigger. But it was just a weird round.
Yeah, I know. I think, Tubes, at least you can feel solace and like looking through the Ballers only Discord. That's how the majority. What you're saying is how the majority of people feel, and they're scratching their heads for next week as well because you got guys like you mentioned. Jermaine Hopgood has done his ACL, so he's gone. You got Trey Mooney suspended. Ryan Couchman likely to be suspended. Tom Chester in the game that just finished was put on suspension. Plus, you got these Rabbitohs on the bye. Next week is going to be tricky. Like this week was tricky and tough. Next week's not looking any easier.
Well, but you're saying most of the ballers, there's one baller that's standing above the rest at the moment.
Yeah, Hungry for More have had we've dodged a bit of the danger this week. We've had a 1350, the boys. But I got to say, Tubes, I needed it because I am one of the people in trouble for next week. And this week where a lot of people were clearing up cash, getting a lot of money in their war chest, I did the opposite. I was bringing in premium. So I actually kind of needed this to be a good week because next week is not going to be. So I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself because I know I'm in for a world of hurt next week. But yeah, absolutely crazy round. It's just one of those ones where when one thing of carnage starts early, it just has a snowball effect and keeps on going, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for you to bring in the premiums when you've got them all already. Cleary, Walsh, Herbie, who else you need? I think that sums it up.
Yeah. 4 Rabbitohs though, Tubes. 4 Rabbitohs. No, look, Tubes, I did love that in the pre-pod in the green room as you jumped into our feed, the Cowboys Titans game. And I just made a comment about something from the game. You went, I'm not talking about SuperCoach. And I went, what, now or on the pod? And you went, both. So you are willing to chat about SuperCoach with me tonight, Tubes?
Maybe. I'm more. I'd be keen not to, but look, I understand that that's what people have come to hear. It was just it was a weird NRL round. I felt as well. Like I wouldn't say that it was necessarily boring. Maybe I was a little bit annoyed with my SuperCoach round, so I was a bit annoyed. But it just sort of felt like whenever the games sort of started going up and up and you thought, oh, this is getting a bit exciting, then they sort of just flattened out and just became boring. Like Sharks got smashed by the Dolphins as well, but even that was like sort of run away at the end. It was a weird round, I felt like, for NRL, other than probably the Storm Broncos game. That was probably the game of the round.
I agree. It was like a lot of the players looked really gassed this week, and there was a lot of like guys with their hands on their knees, hands on hips. I wonder if it's just like 2 games back now, the bodies are just feeling a little bit coming into round 3, little niggles starting to crop up. But Tuesday, we mentioned that big war chest that super coaches might have. So let's talk about the players who are ready to explode. And these are all taken from our Ballers Only Discord. The first one comes from Bunched Up, who's chucked out there Stephen Crichton, the left centre for the Doggies. Tubes, you're a Stephen Crichton owner, I believe. In fact, I think you did a little stack with him and Jacob Kiddos for that game this week. What did you make of Stephen Crichton's performance?
I did do the stack. Kiddos didn't work out, but Crichton looked unbelievable. He obviously swept right for that first try where he just busted through the line and then offloaded to Tracy, was it? I think that scored it. But just in general, I think the first 2 games, most of his touches have been pretty quality when he's gotten them. And they've had two really tough games. I think that I know that the Dragons might not seem like a tough side, but they certainly got up for it that week in Vegas in week one. Raiders in Canberra in monsoon conditions.
Tubes, I was at the game. Like, I've never been wetter in my entire life. It was crazy.
So I just think Stephen Crichton, he's looking fit and firing. I think with the goal kicking, I really still believe after watching that game against the Raiders that the Bulldogs are going to be one of the form teams of the competition, and they will be able to put points on and put them on quickly. And it could be as soon as this Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. against the Newcastle Knights. It's a pretty juicy matchup.
Such a juicy matchup. And then they played the Rabbitohs for the Good Friday game the week after. And Rabbitohs did defend really well on the weekend, but I'm not convinced there's some kind of defensive powerhouse. There could still be points in that as well. Look, Tubes, I agree with you. The things that have stood out to me for Crichton is from the positive scale, he hasn't relied on goal kicking throughout the first two games. It hasn't been like that's really boosting up his score. The left edge still looks clunky, and that might sound like a negative, but I still think I am very confident that left edge of him, Kikau and Kiddos is going to click as the year goes on. He set up one try in the first game, which was like a solo effort where he just beat Val one-on-one and then passed off to his winger. This week he had to come across to the right. None of his involvements in attack have come from big left edge sweeping plays, and I'm very confident they're going to come. So I reckon that's a really good ready to explode player from bunched up. And just to mention as well, Tubes, he had 46 in base plus power on the weekend, which is a big game for Critter. Maybe added to the fact that Kiddos was a little bit hurt, so he had to step up and do a little bit more work. So might not be the norm, but I think it's a good call. The next one comes in from James R, and it's the Panthers maestro, Nathan Cleary. Tubes, Nathan Cleary, he does look ready to explode. Like, I know you might think he's a gun. He's already exploded, but he kind of hasn't yet this year, has he?
Not at all. I mean, it sounds crazy because I think what's he gone 70, 100 and something, 109, and then 69 on the weekend. Looks like he'll have a break even of 72. So only just losing about 7K this week. But I think I don't know if we spoke about it last week or if you spoke about it on the Tuesday pod, but I just think the amount of touches that he's having and the quality that he's getting, it just feels like he's accumulating points so easily. And I just think that he's going to have one of those 150 games just around the corner. Yeah. It also seems very clear to me in this early days that not only are the Panthers back, but they're head and shoulders above the closest team in terms of NRL standard. And so it just feels like every matchup's going to be a good matchup for Cleary. So you really want to be getting him in your team to start as soon as possible, I think.
Yeah, and they've had like what on paper looked to be a fairly tough draw to start the year as well. They got the Eels next week. So there should be plenty of points. The Eels have not been stopping teams well at all. So there should be plenty of points in that one. I think next week he's basically a must-have player for me, Tubes. If you don't know Nathan Cleary, I think he's the number one man. Like you said, he hasn't really got out of second gear yet. He's just leading around the park, steadying it, and just being the man without it translating into SuperCoach points in a big way. So I think it's a great call. The last one, Tubes, we both agree on the first two. Interested to hear your thoughts on Jackson Ford. This was sent in to us by a couple of ballers on the Discord, Bulldog Going Okay and Chucky G. So Jackson Ford, Tubes, he's gone 120 on the weekend with a try. He had 90 points in base plus power, played through the 80 minutes. He had 68 points in his first game, 102 last week. The man's on fire.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So how many minutes did he play on the weekend?
He played 80, but what happened there was Mitch Barnett was returning off the bench. That Morgan Gannon copped to HIA 2 minutes in. Gotcha. So Barnett played the entire game on the edge. So I don't expect that he's going to be playing 80 minutes every week with Barnett in the team, but he could be playing 70.
Yeah, I really like Jackson Ford from a SuperCoach pedigree perspective. His base plus power is always just off the charts. I think if you look, he's been going at a 1.28 ppm. I'm just pulling up in Ballr .live in the player profiles. He is 1.2 ppm, and really he's gone base plus power 85, base plus power 75, and base plus power 68 the last 3 weeks.
That's just crazy.
He plays through the middle. and he has a big motor. And as we saw on the weekend, he can score tries. I'd love to go back in time, like I think we'll talk about a lot tonight. I'd love to go back in time and re-look at my team to start the year, but he started unbelievably. Mitch Barnett back, that just puts the minutes, like even if he drops 10 to 15 minutes, even with that base plus power, he'll still be a quality player, but he's rising 93K this week. You're not paying close to 700K, I don't think, now for him with minutes dropping.
Yeah, because at full strength, like James Fisher-Harris, Mitch Barnett, obviously Jackson Ford himself, Aaron Clark, like there's a lot of guys who can play big minutes in that pack. So I do think that he probably drops around to that 60 to 65 minute range at full strength is most likely. And like I said, Chips, it doesn't make him bad value. I still think he's fine value at that price. And he's clearly one of these guys like we've spoken about with like a Ryan Couchman type who when someone goes down, he can be the guy who can easily be capable of playing those minutes. But I think the role's been better than what it will be at full strength for the Waz. Chiefs, let's get into the negatives now. Let's go to the rage trades, also sourced from our Ballers Only Discord. Are you little? Chiefs, the first of these is a man who also features in your team. This was sent to us by the Rank Outsiders. It's Sam Walker. Now, the Rank Outsiders did say that he actually traded Sam this week, but he was saying it must be ragey for the people who held. Yeah, is it ragey?
It's ragey. I mean, I can't even blame Sam. Bloody SuperCoach. It is easy in hindsight. You look at that draw. It's been a tough start for the Roosters. Obviously, very tough game with how good the Warriors have now looked over 3 rounds to play them first up in New Zealand.
Yep.
That Rabbitohs game was always going to be a tougher fixture. And then obviously the Panthers just completely shut them out on Friday night. And yeah, it wasn't a great game for Sam. He's not a base man. He's not a base plus power man. He certainly needs the Roosters to be absolutely humming. I think last week was the week to trade. I probably wish that I did. Although I probably would have gone to Cleary, so it doesn't feel like it's absolutely burnt me yet. But I know I've lost 70K. But I sort of made a decision that I'm going to hold Sam. I think that the Roosters will come good. You mentioned it to me, and it was your theory, but it sort of happened a few years. Like whatever Robbo does in the preseason, they never click to start the year. They're always a bit of slow starters.
Massive slow starters. And every year we look at their lineup and go, oh, this could be the year that they start strong, and they just never do. Like they get it going halfway through the year. So, Chiefs, I don't know, man. I think I want you to trade Sam Walker, but I remember what happened last time you and I owned. Can I just ask you, you agreed that Cleary was a must-have. You don't own him yet. So if you're not trading Sam Walker, I think he's your halfback one. Does that mean you're going to trade a cheapy halfback all the way up to Cleary?
Yeah, I've got a heap of cash. I think a lot of people might as well. I know we lost Lasardi as a cheapy downgrade, but I think I've still got over $500,000 sitting on the pine at the moment. So going that pretty much gives me the option to go Sanders up to Cleary. I've probably got a downgrade in me with Hopgood as well. So that's going to free up some more cash potentially. So yeah, I'm actually thinking of bringing in Cleary, but just holding Sam now. He's going to drop to 600K. They've got Manly next week. We know how decent that matchup can be. I know he's then on the bye, but as a halfback too, he's not the worst then hold.
The run's great after that bye.
And they've got a very nice run after that. You probably want a Roosters stack after that, like Teddy will come into contention. So I think I've dug my hole and I'm hoping I can dig my way out of it by holding on to Sam.
What about Trey Mooney, Tubes? This has been sent to us by Bunched Up, and I bet a lot of people are feeling ragey about Trey Mooney because he had only 35 points in the weekend. He was on track for his standard 50 minutes and probably about 50 points, but he was sinned in for a really just ill-disciplined shoulder charge on a kicker. He is now missing a week with an early guilty plea. I don't see why they'd fight that the Knights. I don't know what they got to gain, so I expect him to take the 1 week. Could he be a trade candidate for you, Tubes, with Rabbitohs out and other suspensions, injuries, which we haven't even really spoken about all the big injuries this week, Tubes. We'll get to that in the game review, but could he be a trade-out option this week?
Team dependent, I think. Not for me. I'm happy to hold him. I think you saw enough again. Like you said, I mean, I know He got his break even's now going to be 51 after making 50K. People that maybe didn't go him will be quite happy about that. I think you've still seen enough. He was offloading pretty much at will in a very beaten up Knights team on the weekend. He probably got a little bit fiery at the end there, taking out Tanner Boyd. If Tanner Boyd was scoring points on me like that, though, like I'd be tempted to do the same thing. Like,
I mean, you wouldn't be able to, but you'd be tempted to try.
Yeah, well, that's a different story. I like to sometimes think I'm a front row forward in the NRL, but I don't quite have the physique. But the Trey Mooney, I think he's a clear hold, unless you need to trade someone to downgrade, and like he's obviously a fine trade, but I certainly won't be rage trading him. I wouldn't think. But I don't know. Are you in the same position, Jono?
Just depends on who else gets suspended and which of my players remain in the team. There's a chance I trade this week, trade Mooney, because I just might have to. So I'd rather not, Tubes. I agree with you. I think he's a hold. I am a little bit worried about his ill discipline. He did a couple of silly things in the game last week as well, where he did a silly offload, put in a chip and chase for himself, got hooked. I'm just looking at going like, geez, I hope he doesn't lose the coach's trust. But I will hold if I can. The last one, Tubes, is a guy that I own. And this one came to us from our very own Ballr contributor, C-Mac. It's Cody Walker from the Rabbitohs. Tubes, it feels a long, long time ago, 2 weeks ago, but it feels like plenty more when we described Cody Walker as a heaven and earth man. Since then, he's gone 2 scores in low 30s, including a 34 this week. He's now on the bye for the Rabbitohs next week. There are going to be people who own him, who have him as their 581, who are now staring down the barrel of playing Jonah Pezzett. What do you think about Cody? Would you be patient with him, or do you think he's a big trade-out candidate?
You have to trade him out, I think. If he's your 581, it's not just playing Jonah Pezzett, it's playing Jonah Pezzett against the Panthers.
It's the worst possible week for it, which I guess you knew that was happening when you got those two together, if you looked at the draw.
Yeah, I think some people went a bit of a backup. They might have went Purdue in their centers. And then in which case, trade Cody, move Purdue up. That's a pretty easy play. Otherwise, I'd be trading Cody to who knows at 5'8" at the moment. That'll be one for the Tuesday show, I think, to dive a bit more deeper into.
We will, but preliminary options for me, because like I am a Cody owner. He's my 5'8" too, so I'm a little bit luckier than most. And I am going to be patient, Tubes. I'm confident big scores will come. What it has made me realise now, 2 low 30s in a row, is that, yeah, okay, he's probably... almost feels like he definitely won't be a year-long keeper, but I'm going to wait till he goes on a bit of a run. I'm confident a run will come for him, and then I'll trade him out at the right time. For people with him as their 5'8" number one, look, if you've got the war chest, do you think about Tubes going just straight up to like a Cam Munster and just getting that safety net of Cam? I actually was surprised. One of the Ballers had him as a rage trade candidate, which I didn't put him in as a rage trade. It was Marlon was very adamant that Munster's got to go this week. I'd be going the opposite. I'd be tempted by Munster, even though I don't love it.
No, I don't like it at all. 682K, maybe drops 15, 20K this week. I haven't seen enough from Munster that makes me feel like I'd be willing to pay that amount. I know it's a bit of a dire position. And I know we're coming hot off a Purdue 120-point game. But like he does feel like a fairly good option at 5'8". Just with that Cowboys attack, so much of it goes left and so much of it dictates going left off the back of Drinkwater and everything like that Purdue is definitely an option. And I'd really need to deep dive into starting to look at the others, but I don't like the Munster play. Obviously, I'd hold him if I had him, but I'd be waiting on Fletcher Sharp, getting a game back under his belt and seeing that he's fully fit before targeting him as my 581.
The only problem with that as well, Chiefs, is that there was some reports from journos out of Newcastle today that he's a chance of missing next week as well, Sharp, that he actually had a bit of a setback during the week with his PCL recovery. So we might not even get that look at him this week. Tough one for Cody owners, for people owners, they're 581. Choose what we'll do on the Tuesdays. I'll do a bit of a deep dive. Myself, Matt and Dan, we'll look after the Ballers on Tuesday. We'll have a bit of a look at the best 5'8" options going forward if he's your 5'81.
It's not many, is there? Jesus.
That's terrible.
I'm just scrolling through.
And even Tubes, Purdue, you mentioned Purdue, who does seem like he might be the best option at the moment. They got the Storm next week. It's not like it's a great matchup to be bringing him in for either.
Oh, I don't know. Is that against Leo or no, it'll be against Howarth. So he'll burn him.
Howarth.
He's got too much pace for Jackie Boy. So yeah, I'm happy with Jackson.
All right, let's get in the actual round review, Tubes. The Raiders versus the Dogs out at GIO. Jake McKidd, as you mentioned, I know you traded him in this week, Tubes. 28 points is disappointing, but it's also just that he might have injured his shoulder. An NRL physio, friend of the show, Brian, he posted on his Instagram that this may have even been around the preseason. There was some images of him with strapping, plus he pulled up a bit dodgy after his try in Vegas. What are you hoping for with Kiraz, Tubes? Would you rather him have a week to rest and sit it out, or you just wanted to keep playing through?
Not at all. I need him at least play next week through. Part of the reason of me wanting him, and particularly that Bulldogs left edge stack, is for this game coming up against the Knights.
Yeah, okay.
I actually saw in the Discord, Uncle Rod put him up as a rage trade, citing all these shoulder things. You cannot trade out Kiraz this week. Assuming he's plays and he's not missing this week. Knights, 3 p.m. game, 3 p.m. day game against Newcastle. This is where Kiraz goes to eat, as in this will be a huge game for him up against Dom Young. There, I expect him to bounce back in a big way. His break-even's only 102.
Easy.
I wouldn't be shocked that he'll be projecting 80 to 90 points this week, Kiraz, in that game. So, I definitely don't think that he's a rage trade or a trade candidate, and I really do hope that he comes out. Obviously, it's not great that he looked so injured, particularly with the shoulder, but he was still trying to get through the work. I imagine it's a pain management thing in my novice physio opinion. But yeah, I'm hoping to see him keep pushing through.
Yeah, agree. Viliami Kikau, Tubes, he had a decent score, scored 50. He actually had 63 in base plus power, but just had a lot of missed tackles and errors in that game. For me, Tubes, he's the main reason the left edge looks clunky at the moment, Kikau. I think he's running the wrong line a lot of the time, which is kind of pushing Crichton and Kiddos further and further left and leaving them very little room to work with. So I think if you brought in Kikau this week, you'd be pretty happy. He's a bit of a pod, and there might be people who look at him against the Knights next week with their war chest, maybe upgrading one of these second row forwards who don't pan out. But I think he could do worse, and I think it is going to click, and I think he's in for a monster game soon. Tubes, what do you make of Jacob Preston out on the right edge?
Yeah, I was going to jump straight to say, if you're looking between the two, Preston's the man. And I know it's easy to say because he scored 78, scored a try, but 53 in base plus power. I also think that he is the main right attacking weapon for the Bulldogs. And that's the good teams like the Raiders, that they're really looking to shut down that left-hand edge, obviously, because they know Kiraz, Crichton, Kickout, Burton are all on it. But when they do go right, the Bulldogs often, as we saw with Preston's try, they often can then find them a bit shorter after going left on those sort of rates. And often the ball's stopping with Preston, or certainly Galvin's hitting Preston.
Loves hitting him.
He's the main target. Like, you sweep out the back to Tracy, who's tipping it on to Tuala or Marcelo Montoya. Like, you're going to hit Preston.
Hey, don't go against Marcelo. He's our man.
I'm just saying who you're hitting most of the time. Like, say, in most cases, they're hitting a back rower 20% of the time. Here, he's hitting them 50% of the time. It's just maths, Jono. You got to get Preston is, he's. I think he's a must-have second rower. I actually think
for next week.
I'm not saying he's must-have next week. I think that he will be. I'd call him top 4 second row forward this year. So he's a must-have to have into your team. As sooner rather than later. He could be a smoky for Origin, but he's more likely to miss Origin, I think, this year.
Yes, I agree with everything you said, Tubes. Bailey Hayward, I don't want to spend too much on him, Tubes. Just interesting that he didn't play 80 this week. I think a lot of his owners kind of want and need him playing 80 minutes to be relevant with his play style as a hooker in the NRL. Dropping down to the Raiders, Hudson Young, or Big Podson, what a great game for his 95 points. When I say great, it could have been more, couldn't it, Tubes?
Oh, I thought we were putting him in ready to explode. He looks unbelievable. Like, he dropped that ball over the line, which he wouldn't have got the line break for it, did he? So
No.
it would have been a line break and a try, would have put him 120 plus. It's like they're just playing Hudson ball, like and I didn't realize one of the biggest impacts of Sanders being the half rather than Fogarty is maybe he's just leaning on his experienced players a little bit more. And there's one man that's happy to fill that void as an experienced player.
More, he'll fill it if you don't want him to. He's very happy to fill it.
It even looks like he's become so cappy. It almost looked like at one point Sanders took a run on the last, and Hudson was playing the ball, so they didn't know what to do. Who do we throw to? Like, as in, Hudson's not here to take the final kick, so we just sort of throw it around. But he looks strong. He had a little bit of an injury concern at some point, I think, from a hip drop tackle, but he played through. So I think you'll be fine. You brought him in this week, John. I imagine it's everything you wanted to see.
Yeah, just except for the drop ball over the line. But in terms of his base plus power, the role that he has, and SuperCoach is so much about role, even more than talent. Not that I'm saying Hudson Young's not talented, but if you have a second rower who is allowed to float in the red zone, who gets his hands on the ball that much, he's going to score SuperCoach points. So for me, the way we saw him play on the weekend, and that thing you mentioned with him and Sanders maybe lending his experience, Hudson Young's just going to be the premium second row forward in all SuperCoach this year if that continues. So I think if you've got a war chest, I would look to bring him in next week.
Yeah, 76 base plus power on the weekend, and just that sounds unbelievable. But that was 58 the week before, 56 the week before, and 75 the week before that. Yeah. So I think that sort of mid 60s to early 70s base plus power might be something we come to expect from Hudson.
Yeah, at least while the body's feeling fresh, which it is at the moment. Sav Tamale. Young supplements. Yeah, it'll keep staying fresh. What are we talking about? Sav Tamale cracked 100, 2 tries. Nice one for his pod owners. Tubes, the other Raiders back rower, Noel Martin, again in those really wet, monsoonal, torrential conditions. He had a 59, all in base plus power, and thankfully had another 80 minutes this week. There's no way you're not playing him in your team.
Yeah, no, easy. Just now going to be nearly 400K player that you can just slot into your 17 or 18 every week.
Does he win the prize for biggest price rise? We'll have to look at who's going to be the biggest price rise, but he's got to be right up there if it's not him.
Must be Joe Chan, the fix-it man.
Of course, or Sil Fa'alogo. Yeah, we'll have a look. Yeah. It's got to be one of those guys. Chief, Simi Sasangi. This would be the only thing that would prevent Noel Martin from being a play every week. He had a solid game, 50 points, but unfortunately for his owners, Ricky did say in an interview during the week that Simi will eventually go back onto the bench into that middle and edge rotation. So that's just one to be mindful for moving forward. I think all the Noel Martin owners, all the Simi Sasangi owners hope that doesn't happen too quickly, and then maybe Matt Timoko needs a little bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, but I think in terms of as a centre performance up against Crichton, he put in another great display.
He did.
He obviously had 50, all in base plus power from a SuperCoach perspective, but I mean, you never know with Ricky. We've talked about that plenty of times. But I can't see how you can make a case to be dropping him. Like, he's one of the form centres in the NRL.
No, I agree. I think as long as he's playing that well, he'll keep the role. But it doesn't surprise me that if there's a week or 2 weeks where he has a little bit of a dip, that could be where Ricky looks to make the move, because Ricky loves Timoko as well. Chiefs, Ethan Sanders, very interested to hear that you're going to sell him this week. I wonder how many people are going to do the same thing. He had a 43. I could not check my phone at the game because if it was so wet that if I got my phone out, it probably would have broken. So I wasn't looking at the phone. When I got back in the safety of my car and saw that he had a 43, I was actually like, that's a pretty good result. Like, he also would have got the assist to Hudson if he hadn't dropped over the line. He nearly scored that try on his own with a dummy and goal at the end. Like, he was really close to good SuperCoach points in a wet game. But you think that the trade to the premium's the play? Just to hear a bit more about why that's the play for next week.
I don't think it is necessarily for most. Like, for me, I feel, and maybe this is part of my poor SuperCoach output that I have, but I feel like I've sort of made my bed with Sam Walker, and I just think that he really does have quite a big upside. I don't see Sanders having a huge upside, so I think Sanders will score better than 43 over the next few weeks. The Raiders will score more points than they did in that monsoon on Thursday night. And I think Sanders will be a great cow, and I could see him getting towards the 500K, maybe even above with a big score there.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be quick enough, and he's certainly not a person that I want to play in my 17 or 18, even on the right matchups from that perspective. So for me, I'm looking at bringing in Cleary and holding Walker, but I think that it depends on your other options. If you owned some other centers like Adam Dewey, obviously he would be going. I'd even consider a Nico to Cleary because we'll talk about that soon. I haven't liked what I've seen from Nico. Like, I don't think it's a must do to sell Sanders this week. That's for sure.
All right, let's get down to the next game, the Roosters versus the Panthers. Tommy Jenkins, 134, 4 tries, taking to 8 tries for the year. Great game for Tommy Jenkins. Tubes, what's the impact of the Panthers' left edge dominance on Brian To'o? He had a 48 with an unbelievable solo try on the weekend. Do you think it's making Brian To'o sell? We've kind of had 2 disappointing games from Big Bad Brian and only 1 good score so far in his 3 games this year. He's only going to drop 7K or thereabouts this week. Do you think owners should look to get out and trade to someone who they can get to before it's too late?
I think so. I mean, it must be a frustrating own. He was in a lot of my teams. And to be honest, until I'm talking about it now, I love thinking about those plays that I didn't go that were in my early builds. But Brian To'o was one that was in a build that I'm happy to have not started with. I don't think it's just the left edge. I mean, that certainly would be helping his attacking output, don't get me wrong. But his base plus power just seems down on previous years as well. And maybe that's a strategic play, like as in maybe he's trying to not bust up his body as much and saving himself for those big moments, which was unbelievable, that try on Friday night. So I'm just not sure, but I don't love his stats and I don't love his work rate compared to what it's been in previous seasons.
What about Isaiah Yotubes? I sold, I'm not sure what you did, only 3.5% of SuperCoaches sold. Of course, he comes out and has his biggest score. He got 86 points with a try assist. Not the 80 minutes, he got 69 minutes. So it does again look like he's not going to be in the 80-minute role. I think well done for those who are patient and held. I still think he's going to be a sell at some stage in your SuperCoach team. But with all the injuries that went down this week, people who have him, it's just a nice little guaranteed 60 points for next week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. Like the conundrum wasn't, is Isaiah Yo not going to keep, doing okay? And when he does get attacking stats, that's exactly what he gets. He gets in the 80s. He had a try assist with a line break assist, setting up that try, and that was the perfect Yo try. Like just throwing a ball out the back and letting was it Edwards? I think the fullback sort of do most of the work. But you get the try assist because
pretty good ball.
I mean, it was a lock ball. You could throw that ball, Jono. Like it wasn't any. It was fine. Don't get me wrong. It was a Panthers structured attack play.
Yeah.
And then set up that try. And I guess all I'm saying is the big thing is still his minutes. You obviously now hold for a couple more weeks. I do think that it seems like even without Cogger and even without that role, him only getting 69 minutes really tells me that what Cleary said, he's in for that 60 to 65, which just means he's not an end-of-season keeper. But, I mean, who cares when he's putting up scores like that?
Minutes watch that I'm interested in is Isaiah Papali'i, who he had 72 points with a try assist. He had 56 in base plus power. He only played 62 minutes, but the interesting thing to me was, Tubes, he played the first 62 minutes and then came off the field and didn't come back on. Is there a chance that was like an early shower because they were absolutely smacking them? Or do you think that's going to be his role? Because if IPAP is going to be getting 80 minutes, we know from a couple of years ago at the Eels what he's capable of with his PPM if he gets 80 minutes.
I mean, it could be. I wouldn't think so. That Panthers back row is just quite stacked. I mean, that's Garner, Martin, Sorensen when he's back. Obviously Papali'i, like any which way they can all play big minutes. Ivan can use them how he wants based on how the game's going. And even when you say he might have played 80 if the game was closer, how many close games are the Panthers going to be in the next period of time? So
Yeah, who knows?
I think whilst it is a minutes watch, I don't think he's worth the risk at this stage in that rotation.
Yeah, I think you can wait. His break even's going to be around 30. So if you do wait a week, he's only going out maybe 30K this week, break even at 30. So you could still pick him up probably around 630, 640K in a couple of weeks' time and just wait to see exactly what that role looks like. So I agree with you, Tubes. On to the Roosters, James Tedesco. Speaking of picking up guys in a few weeks' time, obviously they have Manly this week. He had 66 with a line break and a line assist. Their draw coming up, Tubes. I know you spoke about how good it is with Sam Walker. I'm just going to spell it out for the listeners. Seagulls next week, then a bye. Then they go Sharks, Knights, Dragons, Broncos, Titans, Cowboys. Going through that list of teams, even a couple of good ones, the Sharks and the Broncos, they have been leaking more points than what they would like to this year. It's a really juicy draw for Teddy. And it's actually one of the things I was thinking about getting Tommy Turbo next week, but now I'm like, if I get Tommy, I might not be able to get to Teddy the week after. So I think he's almost must own for that stretch, Tubes. And he also won't play Origin. So you get him in for round 6 and then he just plays the whole way through.
Yeah, I think you could consider going him next week, depending on how your setup is. Obviously, Reece Walsh, which I'm sure we're about to get to, is going to be a target. But I think Teddy is just going to go on a monster run here. Even in that run that you were talking about, obviously the team matchups sound fantastic, but a lot of those games are also day games or sort of 5:30 evening games. I think 4 of the next 6 after the bye is at home for the Roosters. I just think that Teddy's going to become the number 1 or number 2 fullback, which is, as I said, which is part of why I'm holding on to Samuel Walker.
He also just doesn't look old, does he? Like
No.
he's still busting tackles, still crabbing across field. So it doesn't look like
Still wants the ball.
Yeah.
All the time. Like still just wants Teddy ball as much as possible.
Yeah. Tubes, let's use the player comparison tool over at Ballr.live to look at a couple of Roosters hookers, Reece Robson and Connor Watson. And these two are of interest to me for a couple of different reasons, Tubes. Reece Robson in his return game played 72 minutes and had 65. He got a forced dropout. The other 60 was all in base plus power. Looked good in his return game. That also has a big flow-on effect because it impacts Connor Watson. Connor Watson, he had 54 all in base plus power. He got 55 minutes mostly at lock. Obviously, he spelled Robson for 8 minutes at hooker. I think both of them potentially become really relevant. Connor Watson's going to be dropping to around 520K with a break-even of 64. If he's getting 55 to 60 minutes at lock, he's got that dual positioning, which, as we like to say, it's handy. He could be a great option coming up soon for that run as well.
Yeah, I think he could become relevant. I just don't know where you fit him in. Like, I suppose, the hook has been such a dire position the last couple of years that it's made sense for someone like him to go there. But with Harry and Blake Brayley doing so well there, I'm not sure about Connor. I think the Roosters still have Radley and Spencer Leniu to come back. Obviously, they're not potentially noted big middle locks. But I just think that Roosters pack is absolutely stacked. That I think 55 to 60 or 50 to 55 is Watson's absolute ceiling for this year, is sort of the feeling that I'm getting, rather than a consistent one.
Yeah, okay. I guess we'll have to see exactly what the role looks like, but just wanted to put on people's radars for the next few weeks. Angus Crichton, Tubes, was well sold as well. I think a third of his owners sold him this week. He had 58 points in base plus power. The good news was back to 80 minutes after getting dragged early against the Rabbitohs. So I think it's another fine hold for the Angus Crichton holders. Next game, Storm versus Broncos. Payne Haas, Tubes, you mentioned, I think you had the C on Payne Haas this week. Last day of Ramadan, he scored 84 points in 72 minutes, all in base plus power. The Broncos only used 15 players in that game. So no surprise he got big minutes. Paddy Carrigan saw 80 minutes as well. But for all us Payne Haas owners, that's the kind of game you wanted to see to justify that big price tag.
He didn't even seem like, I mean, he was obviously trying, but he didn't seem like he was ever really gassed or, it was sort of just felt like he was going through the motions, if anything. Like, there was all this hype about the Stefano and versus the Broncos and what that's going to look like. Payne's just a machine. He just went to work. He just did his job. I was like, I had the C on him, so I was watching that game quite closely, and I was watching every run he took quite closely. I don't even think I don't know what his offload numbers were in the game, but it didn't feel like he was pulling out the offload a lot there either. It was
Not
just
forcing it anyway.
yeah, it was just him, getting down to business, and it was really good to see. Sort of, but I put the C on him this week because I didn't feel there was an obvious option. Funnily
Got
enough,
that right.
funnily enough, one of my options was Purdue, just because I had no options basically, and that was such a good matchup. So I don't think Payne's a lock and load captain every week with the way that we're going to see it, but certainly nice to know that option's available.
Reece Walsh, who I brought in this week as a massive pod, like I said, I really wanted to go hard this week when other people were getting their watch list ready. I was getting rid of mine. He had 69 points with a try assist. Tubes, it was a little bit disappointing this week as a Reece Walsh owner. He looked dangerous when he touched the ball, but just didn't seem like he was wanting to get as many touches of the ball as what he usually does. He was kind of hanging a little bit around behind the play at times. He was cramping for the last 35 minutes. I still think that he's an absolute bring-in for next week. If you got the money to do it, I think you'd be crazy not to get Reece Walsh with the run coming up. But did that performance maybe put the dampeners on you?
It was a little bit strange with the fact that he felt like so dominant the first 5 to 10 minutes the week before, like he was really up for it. And what we saw at the back end of last year was Reynolds out. It's Reece ball, like it's his game, and he certainly put his stamp on moments in the game. I think he kicked a 40-20 early on that sort of changed a bit of momentum, and he obviously had some very nice touches, set up that Ricky try, etc. But yeah, you're right. It just didn't feel like it was Reece ball. But we know he can flick the switch at any time. This run coming up, Dolphins, Titans, Cowboys, Tigers next 4 weeks. I don't know how you could get out from behind the couch if you don't know Reece Walsh over that next 4 games.
He's a VC or C option every single week for that stretch, and you could be left behind if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Tube, speaking of that run, Gramsci, he put forward Dean Mariner as a ready to explode nomination. Didn't make the cut, but he just wanted to say that at centre he had 45 in base plus power, which was a big improvement on his performance in the wing. And obviously defended well. Broncos had that nice run coming up. So Gramsci's putting him out there as a mid-range pod option. The other one, Tubes, that I want to put on people's radars as well as a second row forward is Brendan Piakura, who returned this week. He played 44 minutes his return game. If he gets that starting role back, at his price, he's going to be kind of probably sub 300K-ish. I think he's a little black booker just to keep an eye on if he gets the 80-minute starting edge back as well. On to the Storm, Tubes. There's only one man we can talk about to start with. It's Joe Chan, the fix-it man. And geez, he lived up to that reputation this week for the people who had planned on trading Adu Lasardi, and the news came out about his calf strain, gone for 4 weeks. Joe Chan was my fix-it man this week, Tubes. And geez, he did more than fix it. He built it. Built a new house.
I just can't believe it. Like, how good did he look? I mean, I can believe it because he was running up against Ezra Mann, and he won't be doing that every week. And he's had 2 quite nice matchups in his first 3 games. And I'm not trying to poo-poo him, because he's looked unbelievable. But he got Pezzett against the Eels, who we just saw Jaden Seward absolutely carve up on Sunday afternoon. And then he's got Ezra Mann, who's been unable to tackle anyone in his path so far this year. And Chan just made him look absolutely silly again. The role is perfect. Lasardi now being injured, Ballr back in Q Cup means that Ballr probably comes back while Lasardi's out for the next month. Even if there was any risk of Chan missing that, you've now got the next month of price rises for Chance. It's absolutely Chan owners. It's absolutely unbelievable.
And he's
probably a play. Yeah.
Well, Tubes, he also had 66 in base plus power. So it wasn't just like these attack stats.
He had a bit of power running at Ezra Mann when you get a tackle break every time.
Fair, but his base plus power has been good in all 3 games. It's not like that's a massive outlier.
I'm not. He's done very well. I will not be buying him. I do not think it gets better than
Oh,
this.
he's got a break
and-
even at -38. It still wouldn't feel right to buy him for 440K or whatever he's going to be, 450K next week. I think you missed the boat.
Yeah, we've well and truly missed the boat, and we'll just be death riding him from here.
Jerome Hughes, I think, has been really impressive this year, too. Sneaky little pod. He's only in 6% of teams. He had 102. That brings him to an 80 average for the year. He had 4 line assists and a try assist. The Storm just look to be going right a lot this year through Jerome Hughes. It looks like he might be back to full fitness. Cam Munster kind of run the show a bit last year at times. Looks like Hughes might be back to being the number one man.
Oh yeah, like what we were talking about how dead 5'8" is, like how halfback is just busting at the seams. Like Jerome Hughes is averaging, what'd you say, 70 or 80 something.
Yeah,
I
80
think
after
he's number 5 or 6 on the halfback averaging list for this year. So he's but yeah, I thought he looked really good. You're right, it's his team. That's what really scares me off the Munster. He's also just such a great support player. So when Harry does take off and does his magic, like Hughes is often there. And yeah, as we just said, we've had Chan replacing Eli Katoa, which has been good. Again, and probably just a PSA for listeners, I really do think that right hand Storm edge has had an absolute field day over the last 3 weeks. And so I don't necessarily see him in the top 2 halfbacks to look at bringing in.
Tubes, you're a new Sua Fa'alonga owner this week. He's going to go up about 160K in price. So he's the biggest price riser of the week, beating out Joe Chan, the fix-it man, and Noel Martin. How'd you enjoy your first week as a Sua owner?
Yeah, scored a nice try. Looked pretty good.
He looks confident after last week. I thought he's really dancing around looking for stuff.
Extremely confident. He looks like he's now looking to run more than not. And I think in the first week we saw that he's got that passing game. And now that he's looking to run more than not, he's just an absolute weapon.
Tackle busting machine.
Yeah. I think I'm sure he'll still have a low game every now and then, but I can't see how you can't own him. And I'm sure most do by now. So it is what it is. But I just think that I can't see myself selling him anytime soon. We're talking about Teddy. We're talking about Walsh. We're talking about all these things about how to get in. It's going to be hard to say Tata to Sua, even though they do have a bit of a tougher run coming up.
Yeah. Tubes, this Stefano Udakamanu was nominated as an RTE player by Chucky G. I didn't put him in there. I think Chucky G is just trying to make me talk about the fact that I sold Stefano after round 1 because he's had 71 in base plus power in 61 minutes. He just looks good. Like he's going to be a solid third front row forward for the rest of the year if he keeps getting 61 minutes. So Tubes, you bought him. He's your man now. You held him. Just want to say well done. What about Harry Grant, Tubes?
Can I just because like one thing, like I've got the one thing I have over you in SuperCoach this year is that I held Stefano and you sold him, and you could have sold Hopgood at the same time, but decided to hold on to him.
I don't own Hopgood.
Did you went Stefano over Hopgood?
Yes.
Or you sold them both? Yeah. But Jono, I promise if we swap ranks and maybe swap teams, you can come have Stefano and we can call him your boy again. I'm happy to do that for you.
You can keep him.
We'll just change Hungry for More to be called the Tubes Pods.
Tubes, Harry Grant, a little bit of shades of Cam Smith with the goal kicking there after Nick Meaney was hobbling around. Interested to see if he keeps that. I believe the Rugby League guru did say during the week that he'd heard mail about Grant being the backup kicker. Obviously, it helped that Meaney then came out and got hurt. We'll see how that goes. Only 47 points, though. Only had 3 runs for the entire game. But look, I think that the Broncos pack were well and truly up for it, limited his impact a little bit. And Moses Leo, Tubes, Jekyll and Hyde. We saw a little bit of Dr. Jekyll, a little bit of Mr. Hyde this week. He had 34. He had 46 in base plus power, but then had 3 errors and 4 missed tackles to bring that right back down. You just can't feel confident playing Moses Leo, but he's been a good cash cow.
He has, and I do think the Storm are about to have a bit of a tougher run over the next period of time. I think they might play the Panthers soon, and I can't see him being in my team for too much longer.
Tubes, Knights versus Warriors, absolutely dominated by the Warriors. Tanner Boyd, or as someone in the Ballers Only Discord called him, Tanner Boyd, which I quite enjoyed. That was a great call. He has gone 116, a great individual try, 2 assists, 18 points in goals. He was playing with a debutant 5'8", just completely took control of the game. It looked like Joey Johns at McDonald Jones Stadium.
He just looked unbelievable. I mean, so I'm sorry to Tanner and to the Tanner believers. The Tanner boy leavers
There it is.
might work.
It's good.
Because I sort of just poo-pooed him last week, and he's now done it 3 weeks in a row. I still think he's likely to be one of the ones that drops out of the team once Metcalf does come back. But I don't think history does suggest that he can't keep doing it. But geez, he's playing that role well. I think I said on the first part of the year, the Warriors are one of the best coach sides in the NRL. And he just, like, Webster just has them absolutely humming. Like, their forward packs are just looking unbelievable, but the shapes that they play with, and Tanner's just been a great beneficiary of that.
Aaron Clark, 88, 57 minutes. His first ever try for the Warriors, which was surprising with how good he was last year. Choose. What about your former man, Leka Halasima, playing in the centres? He had 64 points in a try. Only 36 in base plus power, which is probably less than what you'd want to see for him in that centre role. What do you think? He's probably going to get dual come round 6 when they do that if he maintains that role. And apparently he has got it on merit.
So I don't quite get it. Like, is that when you say he's got it on merit, like he's just going to play centre from now on?
Yeah, I think he was just picked over Adam Pompey.
Yeah. So I mean, did Laban go down injured as well? Like, as in, I think it's going to be very interesting seeing him as a dual centre wing, and 2RF. I can't see that I'll be picking him as a centre, and particularly at his price. But I do think it would be fantastic to see him become a centre wing, 2RF dual, and look at getting him in once he becomes an 80-minute second row forward at some point this year.
That's the ideal, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't mean it like, I think his base plus power comes very much from how much power he has when he actually runs the ball.
Sure.
But I don't think that he's necessarily a guy that comes in and off an edge and looking for it. That's for sure.
Dylan Lucas, just the last round of this game to mention, Tubes, you're an owner of Dylan Lucas. He had 67 points, nearly all in base plus power. That's fine. I'm really worried about him until Knights get some of their troops back. It looks tough out there.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about him. I've been disappointed as an owner. He was my big pod play. He's a tackle bot machine, but he doesn't look like doing anything in attack, unfortunately. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, worth a hold though until those guys come back, I reckon. No, I wouldn't sell if I were you, Tubes. Sharks versus Dolphins, another disappointing one for your Sharkies, Tubes, but big Fini Fuiaki, or Dolphin Fuiaki as I like to call him, he has come out and had 72 this week, all in base plus power. I really watched him carefully, Tubes. A few of the ballers point out they would have liked us to talk about him last week's Tuesday pod. He kind of went under my radar a little bit, Fini Fuiaki. I just kind of missed him. And when I was watching those Dolphin games, didn't watch him carefully. I really watched him carefully this week. He looks fitter than he's ever looked. He's running with a heap of intent. He's always kind of been talked about as this guy with big attacking upside, and he's finally starting to show that this year and threaten it. What do you think of him at around 550K for kind of moving forward?
I think he could be a great option. I'd rather him on the left, I think, is probably the only thing. I know Katoa sweeps both sides, but I just think that left hand, we saw Lemuelu score that awesome try as well on the weekend, and with Herbie sweeping out the back. But he's obviously an option. Base plus power looks fantastic. He's obviously got good minutes. Just 550K feels like he might have missed the boat a little bit in the second row forward position.
Herbie Farmworth, Tubes, you don't own him. I know you've already said you're looking at Cleary, you're looking at Walsh. Surely you don't have enough money to get Herbie as well. He looks great. He's had an 87. He had an assist and 2 line breaks. He was on 75 at halftime. Seemed like he was set for an absolute monster score. One, you could look at this again as a negative or a positive. The left edge is still not fully clicking, is it there? Like, he's actually not getting any of his points off set plays. It's when he's getting early ball and just doing some damage on his own. Are you putting Herbie down as a priority buy for next week?
The set play should just be get the ball to Herbie early as possible. Like,
it should be.
It's unbelievable how good he looks. it was a tough watch as a Sharks fan and a non-Herbie owner on the weekend. I got away with one, I feel like, at 87 again. I don't think he's a priority, though, purely just because I think there's still those cheapies in the centre wing position to potentially look at fattening up. And yeah, as you said, I've got Walsh and Cleary currently over Herbie, but I'd certainly have him in third spot. And you could possibly talk me into waiting another week on Cleary and looking at getting Herbie in for this matchup next week. They play the Broncos next week, Battle of Brisbane, which I imagine he'll be up for.
From the Sharks' perspective, I thought Blake Brayley was really good, Tubes, in the losing side. 90 points, try assists, 55 tackles. He only had 3 runs, but he offloaded on every single one of them. So really good game for Blake Brayley. Nicho Hynes had one of those games where it just looked like he didn't really do much. And then you check the SuperCoach scores over on Ballr.live in the fastest match centre that's going. And he has just 80 points in the game with a try assist. Just accumulated nicely. But I'll let you talk about his... What?
Do you have 80 points?
Yeah.
Jesus. I honestly was thinking he was a sell, and I didn't even look at his stats. Like, that's just crazy how much he accumulates, like, points. Yeah. From an NRL perspective, that's what
I want to hear about. You watched it closely.
Well, I just don't love I'm just sick of it as a Sharks fan. Like, the not knowing that it's Trindle's team, that it's an out the back to Kennedy. Like, we're not putting together quality games against when tough opposition comes up. We've got such good forward pack to go off the back of, and it's still clunky. It's still not working. I can tell how hard Nico's trying. I can tell he's trying to run the ball a bit more. I can tell they're trying to do different things. I just think that the sample size is big enough to say that Nico, Trindle, and then Will Kennedy at fullback is not a winning formula for the Sharks. And I do think that Trindle harms Nico's game because he just, both when we're winning, he goes into Trindle ball like we saw against the Titans, and when we're losing, he seems to be the person that thinks he can put him on the back when it really shouldn't be him doing that. And so that's frustrating as a Sharks owner, but it also makes me hesitant to potentially bring Nico in. But then you tell me he's had 80 on the weekend, and I'm just like, how do you do that?
It's funny because, geez, we have had this conversation for long-term snappers. We had this same conversation about him and Trindle, 10 times last year as well. So it just seems like it's been a continued frustration for super coaches and for Sharks fans. Tubes, KL Ito I want to talk about because I'm pretty passionate about KL. There's a lot of frustrated owners out there. He hasn't scored a try yet, hasn't had a major attacking stat yet this year, I don't believe. He got 58 in base plus power. I thought he looked really strong running the ball. It was the most damaging he's looked so far this year running the ball, in my opinion. I want to hear how patient you think owners should remain, because I think they should remain very patient. KL Ito, if he continues to drop in price, is on my watch list to pick up soon. He's going to be down around probably 670K, 660K next week. Do you think the owners are fairly frustrated, or do they just need to hold on?
It's a tough one. Like, I know that his base plus power's there, and I might just be too down on the Sharks for that whole rant that I just went on. I know that points will come. I know he'll look good, but I just don't think it's as simple as it's been, where that left side dominant attack will continue to get that. I don't think our sweeping plays looking as good either. Jesse Colquhoun, who I think has been a great ball runner and workhorse for the Sharks, he doesn't have that Yo or Cam Murray or quality
Cam
lock
McInnes.
or Cam McInnes quality lock flair to help us go side to side. And I know that sounds like a nitpicky thing, but I think that's stifling KL Ito. He's not getting as many sweeping one-on-ones out the back. And he just doesn't look, I know he looks good, but when you compare him to a Herbie Farmworth for 150K more in a year where you're not having all 4 or 5 gun center wings in the next few weeks, that's where I find it hard to hold. You got to let go of some to pick the really quality ones.
And maybe I'm coming from the perspective of already owning Herbie, so I'm not thinking about that. But you're right. If I didn't own Herbie and I was looking at KL, I would put big consideration to that. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. On to the next game, the Rabbitohs versus the Tigers. Tubes, obviously the Bunnies not playing next week. I don't want to spend too long on them. Jai Gray, well done to his owners, 98 points. He's the best player in the field, trying to try assist. Latrell Mitchell, who just somehow keeps getting it done, despite not actually having looked overly good in an NRL game this year. He's been massively rocks or diamonds. He's somehow got away with 71 points. His base plus power is now trending 3 games in a row higher than what it has been in previous years, even at fullback, where traditionally they get through pretty good base plus power. I think it's just because he's not getting through the work tubes. You spoke about the Podfather's theory of him being just a lot fresher because he's not doing those fullback Ks.
Not as many Ks. That's it. Like it still more work, less Ks in the legs.
But between that and the goal kicking, it gives him a very safe floor, I think, this year, Trell. So, yeah, he's a decision to be made. He'll be about 680, 690K after the Rabbitohs bye. I'd be pushing for him as a bye. Dave Fafita, I think he had his best game as a Rabbitoh. His defence was awesome in that game, having been a little shaky the first 2 weeks. 67 in base plus power. I just think Tube's a monster game's coming for Fafita soon. I think it could be the Good Friday clash against the Dogs.
Could be. He looked like David Fafita of old and exactly what you want him to see. And I just think he's going to become he'll be a very well-rounded footballer by the end of this season. Like whatever's happening at Souths, I think he's already looking better defensively than he has ever before, basically.
Cam Murray and Keon Kalamatunga, we spoke about guys who looked pretty tired this week, and there was a lot of gas players. These two looked tired and a lot slower than they have in a couple of weeks. I think the bye is coming at a good time for both those guys. I'm still going to have them on my radar to be a pickup after that bye. This game, Tubes, also is where a lot of the carnage started. And it hit with Jerome Luai and Adam Dewey, the 2 starting halves for the Tigers, both going down. Jerome Luai looks like an MCL injury. Adam Dewey going for scans. They think it may have just been tightness, not an actual tear of any kind. But that's not good for a player with his history. Obviously, Tubes, it impacts all their owners, but it also may have a flow-on effect for a lot of the other Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, Dewey to Cleary feels like the freest trade of the week. Unlucky for Jerome Luai, as you said. I think that there was a few Tigers that were looking like they were going to come on the radar. Obviously, Samuel Afainu and Kai Pearce-Paul, both around sort of 500-600K, both had very good scores and will have a low break even with great base plus power. And I think both now become very hard to bring in with that Tigers half injuries. Even if Dewey comes back and it's only a 2-week thing, like I just can't see how they're going to replace him with what? They'll probably potentially move Appy to the halves and then sort of the other Finu brother will come in, and you just won't feel as confident with them running off that and what the shape looks like, because Buller's not a natural ball-playing fullback either.
Yeah, it does make it a lot harder, even with Finu, with that minus 34 break-even that he's going to have. They both look really good, though. Like, I still wouldn't try and talk someone out of it. If you're interested in them, head over to baller.live and use the player comparison tool. If you're thinking about those guys, have a look at their stats. Terrell May, Tubes, I'm really impressed with how he looked on the weekend. I thought he had a really good game. Good 2 games. He had 61 minutes this week after a 53 the week before. Got a big break even of 102. I'd love to see him come out and get maybe like a 50-odd. Let's start to get that price down, Big Terrell, because he's going to be probably the second best front row forward in Supercoach again this year. Tubes, Macassini. Now, first of all, I want to hear about your Supercoach thoughts. I want to hear about what we go with as the nickname. I've been rotating a few through, Tubes. I want to hear what you think. Is it the Mac Truck, Big Mac, the Mac Attack? What do you think we go with Macassini on the Sunday Snap?
Don't like any of those. They feel forced. What about Macassia?
Not bad.
But nah, it's all a bit forced. It's got to come naturally. I don't mind the Mac Truck if I had to pick one. Like if you were giving me a multiple choice question, I'd tick that just to get out of it.
No, you go D. None of the above.
Yeah, but I thought Macassini, he looked good again. Like as in, obviously,
not early.
Jack Whiten was all over him and made him struggle a little bit at the start, but I thought from a Supercoach perspective, he did everything that you wanted still to see. Like he kept trying, he kept picking up, he kept like sort of moving and kept getting belted. I don't know. I was happy. I was happy as a Macassini believer to to think that he's still going to keep going well.
Jeez, it happened when he took the headgear off and threw it on the ground at one point, and Big Mac went on the Mac attack after that. Like, he loved it. He was really way more up and about. And that second half, he kind of started to find his footing a little bit. Obviously, they do have a tough game next week, but I think Makasini is going to continue to be a really playable option moving forward. Luke Lau-Lily, I think we would like to see more than a 37 out of him for people, if a Sedu 2 or a Ciatelli Fayamini gets dropped this week, he's going to have a negative 54 break even. I would have liked to see more than 37 to come through his rolling average. So we'll keep an eye on him. Eels versus Dragons, Tubes, getting on to today's games. The big news again, the carnage continued. Jermaine Hopgood moved to the bench, came on after 20, so it looked like he might have been in for a 60-minute role, but lasted only 9 minutes before an ACL injury, and his season is now over. The other big flow-on effect, Tubes, is it was Ryan Couchman, a.k.a. Rouchy, was the one who did the hip drop. And we know from the past with the NRL judiciary, the injury does matter when it comes to their suspensions. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets 3-4 weeks for what's happened here. I hope not, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, but I still think he'll just be a hold. How good did Ryan Couchman look like, as in
what
when
he
came back
end?
on? Yeah, I think he had 60 from...
with a sin bin.
60 from 50 minutes with a sin bin.
It's ridiculous.
So, but he also became, like what we've talked about, a bit of a fix-it man. I think they put his brother, Toby, onto the left edge for a little bit when Luciano and Rouchy just kept playing through the middle. And then when the Luch came back on, Toby went off.
Wow.
And obviously Toby had the HIA as well.
Yeah, he's gone next week too.
Yeah, so...
Another carnage.
I just think that he's just... Like, he just keeps getting done, just keeps getting minutes, keeps making things happen. So, yeah, I think that, I think he'll get at least a week, maybe 2. But I think he's a long-term hold, especially with the break-even of -24 going into next week.
The other couple of Eels before we properly dissect the Dragons are Kelma Tuolangi, Tubes. He had a 59 he had a 50 in base with that. 130 in round 1, so he's going to have a big negative break even. I would be personally steering clear of Kelma, even at that price tag. And Jonah Pezzett, 50 points with a try and a try assist. We spoke about that last week too, Tubes, when he had his 80-odd, but it came with a lot of attack. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of base behind Jonah Pezzett, but if he keeps getting the attack, who cares?
One was a penalty try, so he didn't get the line break or anything with it.
So they didn't give a line break with that? That makes sense.
They just give it as like almost same as a kick try.
Bad call,
but yeah,
by the way.
Still, I mean,
that was a bad call.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible.
Shocking.
I mean, I'm a believer in some of those situations. It was actually better for the Dragons because that was like the 4th set on their line, and if he gives out a sin bin in that situation. I don't know, like listeners, then they score a couple more. Dragons ended up going down and scoring after that.
All right, the other Dragons boys, we mentioned Toby and Ryan, Rouchy and Tauchi. Jaden Sill, we talked about him on the Tuesday show as a potential premium second row forward. He lived up to that, 114 points, try and 2 line breaks, terrorised Jonah Pezzett.
Should have been sin binned, as we just said, just from that role. But when he wasn't, yeah, he just absolutely terrorised Pezzett. Great line running. Great for Daniel Atkinson owners as well. Just like, I don't know. It's hard to say that he's a new man because he's been doing this for a while, but he does look quite good this year, and that base plus power has continued to stay up. So I don't know. He could be one that you're looking at bringing in. I'm not a big Dragons person, so I'm steering clear, but. Geez, for those that are willing to take the risk, he looks good.
Yeah, he's a definite pot. If I was a Dragons fan, I'd think about it. Definitely. Like, just because it's fun to have a guy from your own team who's a premium level player. At 680K, which is probably whereabouts he's going to be this week, I think I'd rather go with the Jacob Preston if I'm looking around that price range. But yeah, we could be wrong. Val Holmes, I know that C-Mac's taken a look at Val Holmes this week. He had 80 points with no tries or assists. He had 30 points coming from just pure runs and a lot of base to go along with that as well. He actually had a pretty mixed footy game, Val Holmes. Made a few key errors, but that doesn't matter on the SuperCoach stat sheet at the end of the day, does it?
He was only 1 or 2 actual attacking plays away from a really big score, and he had the opportunities for those as well. The Podfather brought him in, and I think he's a great option.
Well, the draw coming up, they go Cowboys, Manly, Rabbitohs, Roosters, all teams who have been conceding points. So he's got that good run, and that SuperCoach is so much about runs. Sedu 2 Tubes, he had 54 in base plus power. couple of errors, threw a silly offload at one point. I'm just fingers crossed he holds his job because at least the base plus power is there. He's going to make us already 70K and only have a break even of 3 for next week. So let's hope he holds that role. Dan Atkinson, 47 with that nice try assist coming off that penalty try. Got myself completely mixed up there. Off a nice ball to Jaden Sewer, not off a penalty try. He's going to make some nice cash too. And then Jacob Little was the last one there, Tubes. We were just interested in previous Sunday snaps about how this whole thing with him and Damien Cook would look. And this week, Cookie came off after 55 minutes and Cook never came back on to enter the middle rotation, even with that Touchy HIA. So it's interesting to see if that'll be a thing next week, maybe with both the Couchman boys out. Maybe Cook will get some middle run, but it wasn't this week.
But not when the Couchman boys are playing, which is only good for Ryan Couchman, I think.
Very good. Exactly. Good for all the Dragons forwards. Bad for the Cook pod owners.
Yeah.
Chiefs, last game of the round, the Cowboys versus the Titans. We've got to start with our man, Jackson Purgey. You mentioned at the top of the pod, he saved the Tubes pods around.
He was the only reason I end up getting even close to 1,100 this week. So I'll take that. He looked very good, but it was also a very good drinky game. So Purdue had a try, 2 assists. It felt like they were trying to hit him early. And it felt like Clifford was trying to hit him a lot earlier. And then Drinky that was almost like they talked about it. That was part of the play. They weren't going to McIntyre at all. They were just going out the back a lot of the time, early ball to Purdue, and it paid off for him. I thought it was Drinky's best game attacking wise, and 98 that he got with a try and an assist. It actually looked like non-owners got away with one there because it really felt like it was going to be a 150 plus Drinky type game the way that he started and just the way that he was looking completely free and healthy for the first time since Vegas as well.
Yeah, they might have got the needles just right this week into that rib cartilage because it didn't look to be bothering him at all. So it's great to see. Chiefs, I thought Jackson Purgey's first try wasn't a try, and I thought his first try assist was about 3 metres forward. But as an owner, you are not hearing me complain about that. I'll take that every day of the week. Tom Chester, we mentioned at the top of the show, Tubes, he had only 27 points, put on report, sent to the bin with 4 minutes to go, lazy arm. Well, not even late. He came through with a bit of force, unfortunately, as Jaden Campbell was stepping back inside. That's a big watch this space. I really want Tom Chester to be playing next week or I might not be able to field a full 18 players. So come on, Tommy. get Ivan Cleary as your lawyer and get down to the judiciary. All right, the Titans side of things, Tubes. Jaden Campbell made his big return. What did you make of his first game back?
I mean, he looked good. That try that he scored was a great welcome back moment. But only 89. He obviously ended up with 2 tries, but one was an intercept. It feels a little bit disappointing. I don't know what's going on with the Titans, though. They're just getting absolutely beaten up through the middle. And Tino isn't really helping lift them. So they just can't get any type of roll on. Even against the Cowboys. So I hesitate, even though I thought Campbell looked good and injury-free, I hesitate to look at bringing him in until I see something better out of the Titans.
What do you think about them people who have Keanu Kinney and say he might be their only way to someone like Reece Walsh, who we both think is an awesome buy? He's had 69 this week. They play the Dragons next week, who they could get some points against too. Does this kind of lack of fluidity in attack, does the way they're getting dominated, does it make you worry about Keanu Kinney?
I don't worry about Keanu Kinney. I think that he could easily go off, as you've mentioned, and he's been just scoring 70s just for fun. Like he just tries so hard. Dan was in love with him in our group. He was another fullback we were talking about. The Sharks should be looking at signing. But I just think that it's the opportunity cost of not getting Reece Walsh. So most people own Sewer. Most might then own one other. I own Turbo, and I won't be selling Turbo just yet. So Kinney's my only play to Reece Walsh at this stage. And the opportunity cost of not having Reece Walsh, it just feels like Kinney's not going to hurt me that much. Even though I know he can go off, it just doesn't feel like in this Titans outfit that he will.
Yeah, at least we know his job security is safe. Like he's their man at the fullback there. Unlike 2 of their cheapies. They're now 0-3, the Titans, not looking great. Adama Ho, who had 62 points today, 41 tackles and a line assist. Josh Paston, who was obviously the man who in the preseason seemed to have the edge on Adama Ho until a great trial. he was pulled from Q Cup and sat on the 6-man bench. Home missed 4 tackles again this week. His defence has been a bit mixed. And Ciatelli for Amani, who only had 30 points and had a really poor game with his positioning this week, didn't look as good as he had the previous 2. I'm nervous about them making the team this week, Tubes.
Yeah, I think changes are going to have to happen, but I don't think it's necessarily Faimani's fault completely. But Howe certainly feels like he could be in line from Paxton. But yeah, I can't. I possibly they're always this 6:00 game, the Titans, or they love it. So I don't watch it as closely enough, but I do feel like they're just getting absolutely dominated in the forwards.
Yeah, let's hope they retain the spots because they've still got plenty of cash to make as well. So it would be nice. Tubes, let's get down to our final segment of the show. The big baller moves brought to you by the Ballr Team Builder tool. If you're bored waiting for SuperCoach to unlock at probably 1 or 2 o'clock tomorrow, it feels later every week, get yourself over to the Ballr Team Builder and start plugging in those changes and see what your SuperCoach team could look like for round 4. Tubes, what are your way too early trade thoughts for round 4 so far?
Well, I think I've already mentioned him a couple of times on the pod. So I'm looking at going Kinney to Walsh and Sanders to Cleary. I won't have the full cash for that. I'm not far off, but I'll need to downgrade Hopgood to someone in either the front row forward or the second row forward. So I haven't done enough research yet to know the dollar figures, but it'll probably be one of those cheapy or cows, or I could even nuff this early in the season, depending what options are available and what prices. But I'm very keen on getting Cleary and Walsh. I mean, after even just our conversation today, though, I could be swayed if Faimani or 2 got dropped or something like that. I could easily look at upgrading Herbie and just keep Sanders and lay Cleary for another couple of weeks as well.
I'm hoping to make 0 trades this week. I've gone hard. I've used 5 over the first 2 weeks. I've already got in a few of those premium guys I like. I might be forced to, though, Tubes, because I might have not enough players to take the field. Like 4 Rabbitohs, Mooney and Couchman definitely gone. Chester possibly gone, plus, these guys with not great job security. So, I don't know. I have to do some deep digging. I think that the players I really like the look of is all the ones you mentioned, the people who don't own. I'm going to chuck Val Holmes in there as well. I think Val Holmes is an excellent buy. Even though the Dragons don't look great, he's one I'd love to get in my team as soon as this week. So I'm going to be seeing if there's any ways shake for me to get Val into Hungry for More this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy when you're at the top to just sit pretty and watch us peasants sort of fumble around and try and make some trades to catch up to you.
It's nice. It's nice for a change. I've had very bad starts the last couple of years prior to this, and they've had to make up a lot of ground. So it feels nice to finally be sitting pretty, Tubes. So let's hope I can keep it going.
Can I just say, Jono?
Please.
Next week is make or break for the Tubes pods. I've got some matchups. I've got the Dogs playing the Knights on Saturday Arbor, as I said. I've got the Roosters' first easy game against Manly. And yeah, I might be back on Sunday night, depending how I go, or I might have deleted the app and just given up for the season come this time next Sunday.
All right, well, Tubes, this Tuesday I'm going to be on with your brothers, Matt and Dan, and we'll have more clarity on a lot of the things we've been speaking about, and we'll be able to hopefully give people the best advice possible in what really is shaping up to be a tricky week. And as always, a reminder, if you haven't already, please get in there and follow us on all the socials. Search for Ballr NRL, search for Ballr SuperCoach. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. We appreciate every single baller who gets out there and does it. And if you want to join in the conversation, head over to the Ballers Only Discord, going to ballr.live/Discord. And while you're at ballr.live, get in there, check out all the stats and give yourself the SuperCoach edge. Tubes, it's been a pleasure. It's your 3rd tough carry for the year and only 3 weeks of SuperCoach. So let's hope the next week's a little bit better.
Is the Ballr doing the run home challenge again? We might need to start talking about that soon. I'm certainly becoming more of a head-to-head focused player as well.
Early days. All right, Tubes, take us home.
You beauty.